Now on Fantasy Football Today Express. What's going on? It's Adam and Dave here. We're talking about players who are moving up, moving down in average draft position on CBS. And we've got 4 categories: up small, up big, down small, down big. Let's start with the players who are up just a little bit. Rashee Rice, James Conner, and Aaron Jones, who Jamie just talked about as busts on our busts episode. Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, Joe Burrow, and Brock Purdy. It's a big list here. It's 7 players. Rashee Rice, James Conner, Aaron Jones. Why don't we start with those 3? Let's say you're just up and at this point in your draft, you're in round 5. You have 2 receivers and 2 running backs. Who are you taking between Rashee Rice, James Conner, and Aaron Jones?
Assuming that catches count for something, it's Rashee Rice, especially since a suspension doesn't seem like it's happening in the imminent future. It might happen later on this season. That would stink. It might happen next season. But Rashee Rice looks like he's on track to start week 1 for the Chiefs. And he didn't run many routes in the preseason game against Jacksonville. I think he ran 4. 3 of the 4 were all very close to the line of scrimmage. So that might be what his role is this year. That scares me a little bit, but volume should still be good. And I still think that he's got high touchdown potential. He had it in college. He had it as a rookie. Even with the additions that Kansas City made at wide receiver, I still think he has it. I would probably take him ahead of Conner.
Now, here's the thing. You look at our ADP, James Conner and Aaron Jones are going in the 5th round. Rashee Rice is going 83rd overall, but that ADP goes back months, goes back a long time now. So over the last week in NFC, Rashee Rice is wide receiver 31. He is going in round 5. Wide receiver 31 in our leagues is probably not going until round 6 or 7. So I will point that out. But
he's rising for sure. You should expect him. You should expect him to be a round 5 pick when you start drafting this weekend.
Rico Dowdle is on the rise here. And do you think he's a top 100 pick at this point?
I think he's pretty much there. Yeah. I mean, we know that Dallas is a spot where we crave the running back there. It's an offense that we like. It's a team that puts up a lot of points. And Rico Dowdle it's the best running back they have right now. And it's not to say that Rico Dowdle is this great talent. He's been in the league for several years. He really hasn't shown a lot when he's played, but he's going to get an opportunity. And that's the name of the game in fantasy. He's going to share with Ezekiel Elliott. At times it might be really gross, but I think that Rico Dowdle, as long as the Cowboys don't make a move, don't change anything, I think he's going to be worth a pick right around that spot, right around 100th overall. That's round 9 in a 12-team league. That's the soonest that I would go on somebody like Dowdle.
Yeah, over the last week in NFC high-stakes leagues, 50 drafts, Rico Dowdle's going 131st, and he's 1 spot behind Ezekiel Elliott. So he still might be terrific value for you. And Rico Dowdle is 127th on CBS, but moving up.
How clearly about going up because of what's happening in Dallas, and no one else is there, and he's looking good in camp.
Guys who are up big: Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis, Dontayvion Wicks, Jalen Polk, Darnell Mooney, and Dallas Goedert. Most of this list is wide receivers: Cooks, Gabe Davis, Dontayvion Wicks, Jalen Polk, and Darnell Mooney, and then 1 tight end and Goddard.
I think Polk is my highest ranked receiver of this group. It's either him or Wicks, and I like them both as guys that are worth taking a shot on late. The Patriots offense is going to be terrible. Polk might lead them in targets and catches this year as a rookie, which is, it doesn't mean he's going to have a great year for fantasy purposes, but he could be a great bench receiver. Wicks is part of this 4-headed monster at wideout that the Packers have. They can rotate with. Everybody saw the big play that he had for a touchdown from Jordan Love in their first preseason game. And I think that's what's fueling Dontayvion Wicks rising into a draftable piece when you get into the double-digit rounds. And if anything happens to Christian Watson, Wicks is somebody that could certainly see a lot more playing time, because then it would be 3 receivers that would be splitting reps. Just makes sense. The numbers game would be in his favor.
Okay, let's take a break on Fantasy Football Today. When we come back, When we come back, we'll talk about players who are moving down in the rankings after this. All right, back here on Fantasy Football Today Express. Just a little bit down in the rankings: Anthony Richardson, Tank Dell, and Jordan Addison. Anthony Richardson, Tank Dell, Jordan Addison. A little bit down.
You know, I never spilled my guts on what I saw in the 2 preseason games that I went to. One was in Indianapolis and one was in Pittsburgh, and it was against the Texans. So this is a good chance for me to chime in. Richardson on his first drive looked really rusty. he was throwing in front of receivers. He should have been picked off on his second throw. Came back on the second drive, and Shane Steichen dialed out some easy throws for him. And on one play specifically, he had Pittman open on a hitch, but he ended up just running, and he got a yard, and his acceleration looked good. So I'm giving Richardson a pass on that.
Yeah.
I don't know why that his ADP is going down. He still is one of the top 6 quarterbacks in fantasy and does have the potential to be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy if he stays healthy, runs like a madman this year, and does just enough as a thrower to be good for the Colts. I'm talking like 22, 24 passing touchdowns, 3,300 passing yards, low numbers by comparison to other quarterbacks around the league. I thought Tank Dell looked great. Now, he wasn't an every down player for Houston. He was their third receiver in 3 receiver sets. And I do think they're going to play a lot in 3 receiver sets. But his touchdown catch, everybody saw it. The timing with CJ Stroud was on par. Those two have a great connection. And I want to buy into that in fantasy. And so Tank Dell isn't going to be my favorite Texans receiver. He's not even my second favorite Texans receiver in full PPR. But I don't mind going for him in that round 5, round 6 range. When I see him there, I get excited about Tank Dell as maybe even he could even finish the year at him as a low end wide receiver too. He's got to stay healthy, but he's got game breaking potential. And he's more than just this one trick pony that can run deep. I think he's got a good enough route tree and that synergy with CJ Stroud that can carry him to some really good efficiency this year.
And it's funny, if you're up in round 5 and you're trying to decide between Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, maybe you should just draft CJ Stroud. Right? I mean, it's tough.
I like that. And then you might be able to have one of those 2 Texans receivers fall to you in round 6.
It's possible. Dell. Not Diggs, but Dell, definitely more possible. And then the down big category is Jonathan Brooks and Marquise Brown. So right now, Jonathan Brooks is going 94th overall. Wow. He might miss a few games, but wow. And then Marquise Brown, it's hard to know, 93rd overall I'm seeing for Marquise Brown. So they're going pretty much back-to-back, 93, 94 overall. We're talking about the 8-9 turn here. What do you think about that?
I would go after these guys as soon as like late round 7, early round 8. And they're 2 completely different players. But the one thing that I think they have in common is that you're going to have to wait a little bit to get the best of them. We know that Brown's got the shoulder injury. It's not something that's going to last all season. And we know that Brown is capable of putting together chunks of weeks with huge fantasy production. And now he's playing with Patrick Mahomes. I can't ignore a player like that starting the year on my bench and then eventually possibly being my wide receiver 3. Happy to take somebody like that if he falls to late round 7. And then Jonathan Brooks, you've got to wait for too. But his situation, I've got a little more trepidation with because Chuba Hubbard's there. The coaching staff likes Chuba Hubbard. Chuba was pretty good as a starter last year, and you're getting him in the double-digit rounds. One of my favorite sleepers. You can get him round 10 plus, and he can deliver double-digit PPR points per game for however long Brooks is out. And then he'll split with Brooks until the coaching staff is really comfortable with where Brooks is and how he adapts to their offense and if he makes their offense that much better. Remember, he's not going to take part in any of training camp, any of the preseason. He might need as many as 4 weeks to get acclimated to the NFL before he turns into somebody that you would consider starting. Jonathan Brooks is someone that you draft with the idea of using in the second half of the fantasy season, week 8, week 9. By then, hopefully, fingers crossed, Jonathan Brooks is delivering good numbers. He is a good pass catcher. He is a quick running back. He should be a good fit for what Dave Canales is running in Carolina.
Thank you, Dave Richard. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. This is Fantasy Football Today Express. I'm Adam Azer. We'll talk to you tomorrow.